Hello to everybody on Dad Bod Transformation. Resident coach Matt Griffiths here. While my partner is picking the children up, I thought I'd jump on and discuss something I've been thinking about lately, and I'm going to put some information together to show you some of the structures that are used to sort of measure some of this in terms of training. Because I've mentioned a few times that people don't focus on the training quite as much, and there's a lot of focus that goes towards the diet and things like that, which is fine, but there should be an equal focus on what you're actually doing in the gym. With that being said, I wanted to ask you the question, how hard do you really train? Now, when you ask somebody this, more often than not, they'll tell you how amazingly hard they train, how they go full-on beast mode, how they smash it, how they max the envelope, how they commit some sort of nuclear assault against the weights, and how they lift them with so much force that they actually disrupt the molecules and they melt the actual iron. Which we all know is, there's a lot of bravado in there, there's a lot of fun and games, and there's a lot of funny memes about it. But let's talk reality. Let's talk about how this actually works with your body. Now, the two main phrases I want to bring in here is, first of all, you've got your MRV, which is your maximum recovery volume. Now, this is individual, as most things are with the human body. So depending on your experience levels, depending on your fitness levels, depending on your nutrition, depending on your muscle type, fiber types, etc., there will be a limit to what your recovery volume is. For some it may be low, for some it may be high, and anywhere in between. What this effectively means is how long you can stay in a certain threshold with a certain volume before you start to de-adapt, which does happen. It does. There is a point you can push yourself where it is too much for the body to sustain, and initially you can get great results from it, but then what will happen is you'll actually start to step backwards, and you'll actually start to de-adapt, and then an injury may occur because it's pushing just a bit far. And this is your MRV. From calculating an MRV, which my clients will know with them, what I do is I gradually push them and push them and push them to the point where we suddenly go, hang on a sec, we can't push any further than this. So I've got an idea then of where their MRV sits. What we're then looking for, okay, is what we call the MAV. The MAV, which is the maximum adaptable volume, or the maximum adaptive volume, I should say. Now, what this is the maximum volume that person can take. Now, a lot of my clients will also testify what will happen is I will not reduce their calories. I will probably increase their calories when they start working with me, for the very reason that I'm going to find these levels within them, within the gym environment. And the MAV is the level you want to be working at. This is where you put your body in a stress state so that it can adapt, but it's the maximum stress take it can actually maintain without injury. Okay? This is what effectively is the sweet spot. Let's call this the G spot of lifting. And when you can find this spot, when you've done your calculations, you can find this spot and you monitor your recovery process, you found where your MRV is, you find where your MAV is, then we start looking at other things such as relative intensity. Now, relative intensity is very important, but a lot of people don't know how to work it out. It is not the same as the rate of perceived exertion. Okay, relative intensity is based effectively on your 1 rep max and the volume of weight you're lifting, which is a combination. This is a combination, okay, not just the actual total load, which is one method, but it actually takes the amount of time you spend at any given percentage of your 1 rep max. And this is what some of the much more advanced programs that I produce for elite athletes, where this starts to come in. It tends to boggle and confuse and baffle people who are just starting out. So I don't mind touching on it, and I don't mind developing a spreadsheet and showing you a snippet of it. But for most, it's probably going a bit far where they don't understand this so much. But when you find these sweet spots, when you find these points, this is where you'll get the most bang for your buck. You've corrected these techniques, make sure that the force you're putting in is going in the correct line. As I mentioned previously, you can put, if you were push starting a car, you know exactly where you want to be on that car. You're not going to start pushing it from the front or the side. You know you want to be behind it, pushing it in the direction it wants to go. It should be no different to your training. If you know you should be lifting away, you want to be pushing it in the right direction, because otherwise you're putting effort into controlling it or putting it in a different direction, and it's wasted. Okay, and that will affect your recovery rate, but it won't affect your adaptation. So that's why these things are so important. When you get these things correct, you will notice massive improvements. You saw me recently post one where there was a 71% improvement across 6 weeks in a bench press. These things don't happen by accident. These things don't happen by accident. These are calculated. These are calculated risks that are going in. I'm finding out exactly what a person can take, exactly where they can be, how to give them the most work, okay, getting the most effort in while still recovering and being able to maintain that pace without causing injury. That's right, David. That's exactly what I'm doing with you. You will feel the G-force as well. That's how it works. So this is exactly what we're trying to do. And this gives you the greatest adaptation, the absolute greatest. Now, the reason I'm so very good at doing this is because I've had to work, well, I didn't have to, but previously I worked with very high-level athletes. So this MAV phase was very defined and the differences as you get to the higher and higher levels become smaller and smaller. You start working within smaller margins. So I had to be absolutely laser focused to get these improvements out of people. But then you bring that back to people who aren't as highly trained, and it gives me a much better outcome than most coaches out there, because it gives me that ability to sort of really hone in and really deliver these results, which is fantastic. So I'm going to put some snippets up and show you these and share them about, and I'll share them with the coaches as well on here, so you can all see how these things go in. But this is something that I want you to really start thinking about. How hard do you really train? It isn't just about going hell for leather, pushing. You could train yourself like that, thinking, I'm doing great, but then if you push yourself too far, you get hurt. But where is that balance? That's what you've got to start thinking. So I'll put some info up on it now. The kids are just coming back, so I'm going to go and get some food. You take care, guys.